Howdy, welcome or welcome back. I'm Ari, and this is going to be the first of a series of vlogs that I hope to make this month where I am like choosing the series I'm going to be reading in different random ways. So each week on Tuesdays I hope, I'm not going to make any promises because I've been really bad about uploading videos lately, but I hope that each Tuesday I will have a video just showcasing like how I randomly choose series that I am continuing or finishing this month and like how I chose them. So I've got a different way to choose them every week. Week one, we're gonna do it real simple and just draw out of the series jar because I already have it. I might as well make use of it. And instead of drawing the first one, I am going to go ahead and use the draw that I had on my TBR. If you didn't watch my TBR video, I'll link it in the cards, but the book or the series that I drew for my monthly draw was the Bargainer series by Laura Thalassa, and I'm on book 2 of that, which is A Strange Hymn. So I'm going to start by reading that. I'll check in with you when I'm done, and then we'll draw another series, or maybe the same one. I put it back in here because I can still continue on with the series, but there's a lot of choices, so hopefully I don't draw the same thing twice. But yeah, that's the plan for this week. Let's get it. I just finished A Strange Hymn, which is the Bargainer book 2. If you hear weird noises in the background, there's like a really heavy storm hitting right now, and I'm just trying to get this recorded so I can pull another book because the power keeps going out and I want something to read instead of being on the computer while the power is out, if that makes sense. So let's talk about A Strange Hymn, which I didn't like. Now, the first book, it was okay, and it had all of the aspects that I typically like in fantasy romance, written by like Sarah J Maas, Cassandra Clare, Jennifer L. Armentrout, you know, like the big names. So it had all those aspects, but it just felt kind of like okay to me, like not great, but nothing really bad. And the second book actually like feels less enjoyable. I mean, it's been a while since I've read the first one, but I definitely didn't enjoy my time reading that book. And I was trying to figure out why, because it really has all of the aspects that all of those other authors have in their books, and I'm like, why don't I like this one when I like all of those? Because I know a lot of them have problematic content that I wouldn't like in anything outside of fantasy. Fantasy romance has content that if I read in contemporary fantasy, or if I read in contemporary romance, that I would hate the contemporary romance. So I was trying to figure that out, and I think I landed on the fact that the main character is incredibly stupid, and that's why I don't like this book. Like, she's an idiot. That's really the only thing I can think of that's like super different from those other stories. It does have like the non-consent of this book is like gratuitous. Like, I don't like non-consent, I don't like miscommunication. But usually I can deal with it in a fantasy romance setting. In this one, it was like the non-consent was gratuitous, and I was annoyed by the purposeful miscommunication. Like, there was a power imbalance there where he was just like, I don't feel like telling you about my past or any of my secrets, and I'm going to pretend to give you a choice, but just so you know, if you ever said no, you don't really have a choice. And I was kind of like, you know what, this is kind of skeevy and I don't like it. So yeah, I'm going to actually make the decision to DNF this series. I don't care what happens in the third book. So let's go ahead and pick the next book. Hopefully I get one of the books on my TBR, because I need to read these at some point in the month, and I don't really have any time set aside to read anything that I'm not randomly choosing in various ways. So let's see what we got here. And the next series I am going to be continuing is this one, which is not something I want to read. It's the Drain Eye Saga. This is Book 2 of the Draenei Saga, The King Beyond the Gate by David Gemmell. This is the series that I have the most books in left to read. So there are 10 books left in this series that I have to read. So it's definitely not something I'm going to complete this year, and definitely the thing that I probably wanted to pull out least out of this thing, but it looks like this is what we're continuing with. So like I said, definitely not going to complete the series, but we are continuing with it, which is the whole goal of this. So I'm going to read The King Beyond the Gate by David Gemmell, based on the end of the last book. I don't really know where this is going to go, but we're going to find out. And I'm not going to tell you what happened at the end of the last book because that's a big spoiler, but let's see. Let's see. I finished The King Beyond the Gate by David Gemmell, and I'm going to try my best to explain this, but this was fantasy written in the 80s, so it's kind of complicated. So this is the second book in the Draenei series. The first book was Legend or Dress the Legend, depending on when you bought the book, I guess. It has 2 different titles. And this takes place like generations after the first book. It doesn't say exactly when, but it was before their grandparents' time, and the characters in this book are in their like 50s, so quite a while. But it takes place in the same land, in the same universe, so the country or the people of the country are called Draenei, which is why the series is called, I guess, the Draenei Saga or whatever it's called. This world is ruled by like a despotic ruler, a super evil guy, just like straight up fantasy chaotic evil. Years ago, 10, 15, I would say, before the events of this book, when this guy took over as ruler, there was a legion called Dragon, or the Dragon, it kind of changes, which they're like the most powerful warriors in this country. And when he took over as ruler, the dragon was disbanded, and the warriors were just kind of sent off. Go live your life wherever. Basically, they did that. There was argument about overthrowing this king. They decided not to do it and just move on with their lives. And apparently the king hunted down all of the members of the dragon and murdered them. And our main character was a general of the dragon, and he had gone off to farm, live a very calm life, married a woman. She died, and then because the people who were coming to hunt down the dragon, him specifically, killed her. And so he's now seeking revenge. He's going off to basically assassinate the king by himself. He starts meeting up with other people and comes across the last 3 members living of the dragon. And from there they kind of form an army and end up going to war with this king, and that's kind of what this is about. Overall, I very, very much enjoyed this. It's a very slow read. The writing, like the font, is itty bitty tiny, even though it's only 300 pages, so it took me quite a while to read this. I don't know that this is for everybody. The thing with this is you'd have to like the fantasy of the time to enjoy this, which I just happen to. If you like the Conan the Barbarian movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 80s, then you will like something like this. It's a very, it reads like a bad script. Like they're acting, it reads like they're acting and they're really, really bad at acting, which I just happen to enjoy. The storytelling is fantastic. The characterizations are fantastically bad. Like they're bad, but they're good bad. Like that doesn't make any sense, but you're just gonna have to trust me with that. And overall, like I really like this series. I like David Gemmell's writing. The other thing that I will warn you about is this was published in 1986. It's racist. So it's what many people today would call microaggressions, but microaggressions are still racist. It's not outright like use of the N-word or anything like that, but but it is racist. If you're gonna pick up the series, go into it knowing that. I don't remember any of that from this book, or from the first book, but this book has a black character, and it's very stereotypical, I guess. Racist. Let's just go with it's racist. I enjoyed this. Let's move on. My week for this is almost done. It's Saturday. This video needs to go up Tuesday, so whatever else I pull out of here needs to be done by Monday. We're gonna pull again. Hopefully we get something that's a quick read. I'd like to get at least 4 books into this video, but I've only gone through 2 so far. The first one just being something that took me forever to read because I wasn't interested, and that one is just like a harder read. So let's see. I'm gonna get Cassandra Clare because that's like the thickest book I have, so I just know that's 100% what I'm pulling out of here right now. We have this one, which is the Celestial Kingdom duology. This one is going to be Heart of the Sun Warrior by Su Lin Tan, which is the second book in the Celestial Kingdom duology. It being a duology means that this is the last book in the series. So once I finish this, I'm done. Bad news, this is nearly 500 pages. It's 480 pages. So this may be the last book that I get into this video unless it reads fast. It is technically adult, but it reads like young adult, and some of the tropes are very young adult, so maybe that'll go fast. But yeah, I need to, I don't have a physical copy of this. I need to borrow this from my library or buy it on Kindle or whatever, but this is the next one we're reading. I have finished Heart of the Sun Warrior by Su Lin Tan. This is the second book in the Celestial Kingdoms duology and the final one in this series. I don't actually think this needed to exist. The story wraps up really nicely in the first book. Maybe add a couple of chapters to it and you have your big conclusion and everything like that. It could have been a standalone, but I think this is good for people who really enjoyed the characters and just wanted to like experience more of their lives. So if you thought Dawn of the Moon Goddess was okay but not great, you don't need to continue on with the series at all, but if you really love the characters, want to revisit those characters, continue on. I gave this a 3-star. It was fine. Probably would have been a 4-star except for the ending. I wish like the last 5 or 6 chapters had been cut off. I really liked the open-ended aspect of it, where like I as a reader could kind of make up whatever, like however I wanted the story to end, like as an imagination of like who she ends up with or whatever, ship who I want to ship absolutely nobody type of situation. But the author apparently didn't want that, and we do have a conclusion. The love V is solved. And not really in a way that I liked. So that took away from my personal enjoyment, but I think a lot of people will like the ending. It's just a me thing. I hate love V's to begin with, and I definitely could have done without the last few chapters that were literally about the romance and not the action of the book. It is Monday. It is Monday evening. I only have a few hours tonight to read because this needs to go up tomorrow. So I need something short in here. So let's pray for a graphic novel or something. Don't do me dirty, Mr. Jar. Okay, we'll go with this one, which is going to be the Terrican Chronicles. Oh, good news, it's something on my TBR. Bad news is it's long. This is 545 pages, so I don't think I'm gonna get it done tonight. My guess is this is going to be in the first book I talk about in the next video. This vlog is going up a day late because this was so good. I didn't want to put it down in order to edit. This universe is a lot. This is futuristic dystopian. the people in this world live in a very, like, not advanced society. Like, prehistoric, verging on medieval type society. Not a lot of medicine. No one really lives past like 40 at the latest. That kind of thing. Except for they live in the ruins of another society known as Terrakin. The Terrakin peoples had like super, super advanced technology, far, far more advanced than what we have now, but they like vanished one day. No one knows what happened, why they vanished. We do know there's like nuclear fallout throughout the world. So obviously there was a big world, but there's no like bodies. Did they flee? Was it an alien race? Were they human? Like, no one has any idea. They just live in the ruins and survive the best they can, with the help or sometimes against this technology. You find out more about who the Terrakan were, if they were aliens and everything like that in the second book, but because there's no guarantee you've read the first book, I'm not going to spoil that stuff for you. But it was such an interesting concept, and the writing, something about the writing just kept me interested. Like, this is the first book I felt this year that I just really want to read. Multiple perspectives. This book had at least like 4 perspectives that it really switched between. There's 3 main ones and then one that kind of dropped in there every once in a while. The Lost Puzzler, I want to say, had at least 2 perspectives in it. But I read that in 2021, so it's been a minute. But it was also multiple perspective. I feel like the perspectives in this book were far enough apart that it didn't feel like I was ever confused. Like, it was very clearly switching perspectives, telling a completely different story. One of the perspectives in here was from the fall of the Terrakan Society, so that was interesting. You got to like figure out exactly what happened like along with this character. Very underrated series. It has like under 1,000 ratings for both books put together on Goodreads, so I highly suggest y'all pick this up if it sounds at all interesting to you, because like I said, underrated. That is everything for this week. Next week we are going to be figuring out the TBR with the help of my D20 here. D20 is gonna pick my TBR, so if you want to see what series continuations I'm reading next week, with Greenie's help here, come back next Tuesday and I'll talk about it. Bye.